Hello and welcome to Estuary TV News with me, James Dunn. In tonight's show, a young person who's turned his own life around now wants to give a landmark a new lease of life. And our guest talks about your chance to help fight cancer by having a cup of coffee or tea. But first, here's Richard Morris with the news headlines.
Hello, in the headlines today, cancer support is now more readily available in Grimsby and there's a new way to view information about music in North Lincolnshire. Local businesses came together to raise money for a good cause. It all took place on the golf course for St Andrew's Hospice and saw teams raise over £1,000 for the Grimsby charity. Formed 8 years ago, the Business Generation Group support the hospice in many ways and recently toured the site.
The tour around the hospice was very, very professional, very interesting and quite moving in places. The hospice itself is a most important part of our local community, and I think you'll find a lot of the businesses within the local community do support the hospice in this area and surrounding area as well.
The hospice will spend the money on patient care, activities, respite care, symptom control. So whatever is suitable at the time, we will dip into that pot and use the BGG's money for that.
Macmillan Cancer Survivorship support teams are now available in Grimsby. The team are encouraging people living with cancer or cancer survivors to speak to them if they need advice, guidance or help. Appointments can take place at your local GP surgery, at home or over the phone, telephone or email.
Yeah, a lot of people, because it's such a life-changing diagnosis, a lot of people lose their confidence. You know, you don't work for a year, people start to treat you differently. So people become very anxious, they've become very isolated. And what we're trying to do is to say you don't have to live your life for the rest of your life like that. We can get people back out into communities, back engaging with work or with social activities and being back, enjoying life where they should be.
The enrolled Freemen of Grimsby have accepted more members into their group. Now, daughters and sons can apply to be Freemen, descendants of the original people from the town of Grimsby. The ceremony took place at Grimsby Town Hall, with the Mayor of North East Lincolnshire handing out the prestigious certificates.
Well, the Freemen of Grimsby were here before the 1201 Act. We effectively were the administrators of the town. We preceded the modern-day councils, and when the charter was granted to the town, it was effectively taken by the Freemen along with large parts of land within the town, including the East Marsh.
Well, it's through male being 21, being a son of a Freeman, and now we've changed it so it's now a daughter of a Freeman. Before it was a daughter could make her husband a Freeman, but if they got divorced, she lost it, he kept it. And we always thought that was wrong, so that's changed. So daughters of Freemen now hold it in their own right.
If you're a resident within the Hull City Council area, then your bin collection times could be changing. From today, the authority will start distributing leaflets to households explaining the importance of recycling and when bins are being collected from your street. The North Lincolnshire Music Education Hub has launched a new website. Music Hub North Links features information about concerts, music and dance activities, workshops and music lessons. The Hub, which receives some funding from Arts Council England, brings together music and arts organisations locally and regionally, and with the aim of ensuring that it is well provisioned and available to all.
Music services do a brilliant job, and there was lots of music going on in schools and so on, but I think this was just an expansion of that and an add-on, if you like, with lots of different music and organisations all being able to come together with the same purpose to help the future of music, really, to be able to, for children to become involved in all sorts of different things and different partners and projects be able to be organised for the young people.
Well, I mean, music, young people being involved in music is really something we're all passionate about here. It does so much for them, and children can do music in school and also out of school. So by bringing the community and the world of schools and music services together. They can be signposted to all sorts of events through our website, through the Music Education Hub, and hopefully we'll do projects together. It's an opportunity to enrich what children do, not only their music in school, but also their music out of school time as well.
That's all from me for now, and we'll be back with more news soon. If you have any news for us, then please don't hesitate to contact Grimsby 01472 315561 or contact us on social media. Bye for now.
Thank you, Richard. Now, next on the show, Ashby Cenotaph remembers the names of the fallen in the Second World War, but unfortunately, over the years, its condition has deteriorated. Luckily, thanks to the dedication of a local young person, it's now been restored. Dan Kemp has more.
Charlie Pyatt was struggling at school, but he has managed to turn his education around with the help of the Darley Pupil Referral Unit. As part of his education there, he attended a Remembrance Sunday event at the Ashby Cenotaph, where he noticed something was wrong.
Charlie came down, and while we was observing the 2 minutes silence, he just casually said, "We cannot see the names on there." And I said, "Well, let's look at it. What do you want to do about it?" Charlie wanted to write to the council. He did, and this is the upshot of it all.
My older teacher, Mr. Bonetti, helped me write the letters, and my mum, gave me a bit of head on stuff as well.
First of all, on behalf of the North Lincolnshire Council, I want to thank Charlie for his observation. I mean, here's a story of a young individual who was attending at the memorial here that's behind me, and thinks to himself, well, wait a minute, I can't see the names. How do I go about solving that? And I think that from that point of view, with somebody who takes so much interest, we as a council have responded immediately in terms of his comments. And I'm delighted to say that, you know, irrespective of what anybody might think, there are some great young people out there. Charlie's one of them. He's a real example of what the community has got youngsters of this nature that's amongst us all.
This is the good work that Charlie has done, and this actually has to be the pinnacle of everything. Part of our studies that we were doing in history, we were looking at the effects of World War I, and we had somebody who came in to share her experiences about the family that she'd found and the effects that it had on her family when one of her relatives had actually died in the Great War. And Charlie became quite interested in that, and as part of our history project we always put a wreath down on Remembrance Day to remember the people that fell in the Great War, because the fathers, the sons, the uncles of the children that were attending what was Ashby School at the time are the people that are named on here.
The Cenotaph has now been restored to its former glory by North Lincolnshire Council, and Charlie's example of vigilance is something that's been rightly recognised.
What it does is send a message to others that, there are things that you can do if you keep your eyes and ears open, if you take the trouble, and that's what Charlie's done. He's actually turned around and said, things aren't good enough, I want to make some difference, and he's taken the trouble to do it. And we as a council are delighted to have been able to respond. And I think you'll see from the condition of the memorial behind us, perhaps we should have looked at it, we should have kept our eye on it, but Charlie's done it for us. And the message to all other youngsters is, please keep your eyes and ears open. If you think there is some things that you want to change, want to improve, please let us know. We do respond, we do listen, and I'm delighted to have done so.
Dan Kemp, Estuary TV News.
Thank you, Dan. Now, we're rapidly approaching one of the biggest fundraising events for the Macmillan Cancer Support Calendar, and my guest today is Deborah Whitehead, Macmillan Lead Cancer Nurse for Northern Lincolnshire and Gaul NHS Foundation Trust. She's here to talk about all the hard work that goes on in the area. Thank you very much for coming in today, Deborah.
You're welcome.
So first of all, Macmillan is well known as one of the country's biggest charities.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what it is you do, because it's slightly separate to some charities, isn't it?
I think, as you say, it's probably one of the biggest charities in the country. I think it has a very good reputation. People feel safe with the branding. And obviously, Macmillan works very often with the NHS, supporting posts and services.
Because, I mean, you are the lead cancer nurse in the area, but you're technically employed by the NHS, aren't you?
I am. I work for the hospital trust.
So, I mean, how does that work? Is it funded by Macmillan in some way?
Yeah, my post was initially funded by Macmillan, and Macmillan work with the NHS. They have a contract agreement whereby the hospital or the community or whatever organisation will continue the post after the funding's finished.
Okay.
So it's a reciprocal agreement, if you like.
And what kind of jobs do Macmillan cancer nurses do?
Lots of different jobs, really. Mine, for example, I don't really see patients anymore. It's more of a strategic role, but we have Macmillan lung cancer nurses, Macmillan breast care nurses, we have Macmillan speech and language therapists, Macmillan dietitians, Macmillan GPs.
So it's not just strictly cancer as many people would see it?
I suppose the focus of most of those jobs is supporting cancer patients, but obviously in completely different ways.
Oh, I see. So with speech and language, for example, would you perhaps be helping former cancer patients?
I think the speech and language therapy role is more focused on patients who've had cancers of the head and neck, so they may have, you know, swallowing difficulties, etc.
Oh, right. That's very interesting, actually. So going back to the charity side of things, you are extremely well supported in the area, aren't you? I mean, people do all sorts of things for Macmillan.
They do. People do some incredibly innovative fundraising. You know, people shave their heads and all sorts of things, really. But I think the coffee morning is something that's been happening now for quite a few years and raises millions of pounds every year for Macmillan.
And that's actually coming up this Friday?
It is. It's this Friday. We've got one running in the restaurant in the hospital in Grimsby, and the catering staff have initiated that, but obviously my Macmillan colleagues will be supporting that. We have a Macmillan information and support facilitator, and we have Macmillan volunteers who run the information centre, so they'll be helping out as well.
So we've got this one going on in the hospital, but of course it's not just in this area, is it?
No, it's countrywide really, and I imagine there's lots of Macmillan coffee mornings all over the place. There might be one in a library, you know, somebody's house.
And in the one here, I mean, there's one in the hospital, but it's not only for NHS people. There's people organising Macmillan coffee mornings everywhere.
Absolutely, and certainly our restaurant is open to members of the public, so people would be very welcome to join us.
And just so we get an idea of why it's important to support something like this, all the work that Macmillan does, you know, it costs money, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Obviously lots of people are aware of Macmillan nurses, but I've already said there's more to Macmillan than nurses, and one of the biggest things that they do is support cancer patients financially. You know, if we can ask for a Macmillan grant if somebody's struggling for a particular purpose.
Because obviously you think of, you know, cancer and the care that's required, often covered by the NHS, but there's wider financial implications to that, isn't there?
Oh, massively, and I mean, one of the big campaigns this year for Macmillan is how people who've had cancer, how they integrate back into work, because obviously for some people they have to go back to work, but sometimes they, because of what's happened to them with treatment, you know, sometimes employers need a bit of help and support with supporting their employees coming back to work.
And of course the work that you do is very well supported, particularly from people who have suffered from cancer and their families, and I suppose that goes to show just what it means to them.
I think you're right, and there's not really many people these days whose lives haven't been affected by cancer in one way or another, so it seems to appeal to people, you know, on a deeper level really, and everybody seems willing and able to help if they can.
And that's extremely important to you, that help, isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
Finally, just one more time, where and when can we expect to take part in this coffee morning?
It's in the dining room on Friday at the Diana Princess of Wales Hospital, 10 Mile 2.
Brilliant. And do they have to pay anything, or do they just have to buy a
No,
cup?
just turn up, have a coffee and a cake.
And you're going to be there?
I won't be there personally, because I'll be in Goole helping out with one there.
Okay, but plenty of Macmillan nurses there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming in today, Deborah, and I'm sure a lot of people will be along. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today, but we'll be back with more tomorrow. In the meantime, don't forget that if you want to share what's happening in your area, however big or small, get in touch with our teams by phone on 01472 315 553, social media at Estuary TV, or send us an email on news@estuarytv. Bye for now.